I think we're gonna get started now. How are we doing today? I can't hear you! Thank you guys for coming. I'm glad that it's not raining. It's actually a very beautiful sunny day. Just for us, the last movement rally was pouring rain, so we got rewarded this year for that. Hi everybody, my name is Naisha. I'll be your MC for today. I work at Movement. I also am a community organizer and will be guiding the program today. I'm also an artist and will be doing my Master's in Environmental Studies in the fall. Okay, people like environmental studies. My family immigrated here from Bangladesh, so I was born and raised in so-called Surrey, and before we started I wanted to do a land acknowledgement. As someone who's migrated from, or has migrated from Bangladesh, I recognize that a big reason why we actually ended up moving, phosphorus SkyTrain. A big reason why we ended up moving was because of displacements and impacts of British colonialism, and so as a settler I think about an internationalist view on decolonization. Today we are gathered on the ancestral, traditional, and stolen territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, Coquitlam, Catsi, and Kwantlen First Nations. We'll be talking a lot today about transit and transit mobility, access to transit, and something to keep in mind is how transit and mobility and who has access to transit has been a tool of colonization. Today, as it's July 1st, marks Canada's colonial identity, and so I'm wearing an orange shirt. And today, if you have time after this, I really implore you to go to the Decolonial Clothing Pop-Up, which is happening at 269 East Georgia Street. It's going until 6 p.m. Yeah, thank you. It's going until 6 p.m. and they are doing screen printing until 3 p.m. and will be featuring films throughout the day. There's also another pop-up at Sister Sage, which is 1312 Kingsway. They're also doing a pop-up until 6 p.m. I really implore you to redistribute your wealth today, because today is a day that we may celebrate. We have the day off, but it is a day of colonization, and so really recognizing this identity in everything that we do. I've been working a lot with Movement, so for the summer I've been one of the Canada summer jobs. I'm really grateful to be employed, and I've been taking transit for as long as I can remember. It's actually one of my first memories. My mom used to take my brother and I on transit a lot, and I was a kid, I was probably like 4 or 5, so like maybe my memories are made up, but I'm gonna act like they're not, and like everything is real, guys, I promise. But I used to transit a lot, and I think one time that really stands out to me is my mom actually asked the bus driver if he could stop a little bit closer to her doctor's appointment, because she was carrying me in a stroller and my brother, and the bus driver actually let us. And I think, even though I probably could not process this then, I remembered it to this day because it planted a seed on how transit can work for us. And I think that's a really important thread for what you're going to hear today and why you all are gathered here today. We need transit to work for us. Transit has the ability to drastically change our quality of life, and for some, transit in Vancouver is really good if you live in downtown, if you live along the SkyTrain. But for a lot of people in Metro Vancouver, transit actually kind of sucks. Is anyone here from Surrey? Does transit suck there? Yeah. I live in Surrey. Every time the SkyTrain comes, I'm gonna pause for SkyTrain and we'll do a little cheers. Okay? Keep it in mind. So, like I was saying, it's okay. I think we can talk over this one. But for some, transit is really good. For some, it's really poor. And when I say transit can change lives, what I mean by that is that it can compound oppression or help those most marginalized. And currently, transit in BC is making it harder every day for people to live here. The fares have gone up 5% today. Shame, 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 evil, evil, throw tomatoes, throwing tomatoes. And so we're asking for an expansion of the BC bus program, which currently serves low-income folks with disabilities and seniors. But this program of itself is actually really, really lacking. Something, if you are someone with a disability and you have a BC bus pass, you actually can't access Handy Dart. You have to pay additionally for Handy Dart. It's very clear that transit is not serving the most marginalized, and as the fares go up today, we need something like a low-income transit pass to support families who can't afford to move. There are so many different ways in which transit isn't serving us, even the workers that are here today. We have representatives from Dextera who are cleaners for the SkyTrain. Can we hear from a round of applause for them? They will be speaking later today, but if you haven't signed the petition yet, it's justiceforjanitors.ca/Vancouver SkyTrain. So if you have some time today, I implore you to do that. Even the bus drivers are suffering. Yesterday, a bus driver in North Vancouver unfortunately had a heart attack while driving. He has survived, and there was one person with minor injuries, but let's all keep in mind that this is a very precarious position, and we need to support bus drivers and unions and all of these folks. An expansion of the BC bus program is also really, really important because right now it's so confusing for people with disabilities or who are low-income seniors. It's so hard to navigate, and people who are newcomers or where English isn't their first language are so struggling to access this lead. And so it seems like it's cheer, 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 guys. It's incredibly hard to access, it's incredibly confusing, and we need a better system so that we can actually service the transit that we need. We're asking for a low-income transit pass, or as our marketing is called, a lit pass. It would require 70 million. We need approval from the province. We already have approval from TransLink. They've signed off and they're really down for this project, but we need approval for the province, and that's why we're here today, to demand from the province a low-income transit pass. We have support from the City of Vancouver and very recently the City of Langley. But like I mentioned, we need the province to make this happen. Specifically, we're calling on ministers like the Minister of Transportation, Mike Farnworth, to make this happen. And I actually have a chat that I just made up for Mike Farnworth. If you guys don't know, Mike Farnworth is an MLA. He's the Minister for Transportation. And so we're going to be doing a lot of chants today, and I will be leading them. But the first one is, Mike Farnworth, give us transit we deserve. So I'm going to say Mike Farnworth, and you're going to shout back to me, give us transit we deserve. All right, we're going to practice. Mike Farnworth. Give us transit we deserve. Mike Farnworth. Give us transit we deserve. All right, good job, everybody.
Okay, thank you so much for being here, Haichka. And I'm here today because I believe that we deserve public systems that meet our needs. And I don't think that that's crazy to say. So many of the challenges that we face today have been presented to us as inevitable, from climate change to housing prices to corporate greed. But we know that so many of these things are choices. They are not inevitable. A transit fare hike today was not inevitable. That was a choice. And we deserve leaders who make these choices that are right for the community. We deserve, there we go. We deserve public systems that actually meet our needs. Because when governments don't make the choices that are best for the community, those hard choices come back on us. Too many people in our communities are choosing, like Naisha said, between food and transit, between going to the doctor or going to the park, between visiting their loved ones or staying home. And these are not choices that we should be having to make. These are choices that are being forced upon us because we don't have public systems that meet our needs. And I think that's a shame. We deserve a public system for public transportation that actually goes back to the root of what it should be, which is an affordable and reliable way to get around our communities. Yeah. We deserve public transit systems that are not going to abandon workers or abandon riders, because we are not customers and we are not just workers, we are community members. And we decide who gets to lead us in our communities, and this is why we are calling on the leaders of our communities to make better choices for us, because unaffordable transit is not inevitable. We can choose better leaders, we can choose better, let's cheer. Here we go, SkyTrain moment, yep. We can choose better leaders, we can choose a better future for ourselves, and we can choose people who are going to fight for us. And so I hope that you remember that as the next few months unfold. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dallis Steinberg. I am a union rep for SEIU Local 2. Thank you for having us today. We appreciate it. The one thing I will apologize for, sorry, am I too loud? Happens. Is you're going to hear the same message from everyone, because we're a community that have the same concerns that are repetitive, that are not being met. So you are going to hear messaging over and over again today, and you should, because why do we have to repeat a message? Why do several different groups have to come forward before anything is done? This government we have in place is supposed to be a working person's government. They are supposed to work for us. So my suggestion is we hold them accountable while they're here. We have this conversation. We connect with other movements. We build solidarity, not with just unions, with workers, with disability outreach, with migrant outreach. That's how we're going to win this fight. We put those people in office. We hold them accountable. And what we want is something that we're not making up. This isn't new. This isn't a brand new thing that just occurred. We see it amazingly working in other places across Canada, in the States. Mondami's doing it. Woo! So we're not reinventing the wheel. And I'm going to tell you, my struggles are your struggles. I have 2 kids, and before I'm a union rep, I'm a single mom, and I have been for a long freaking time. And I'm going to tell you, it's a tough job. I'm also a person living with a disability, and it's an invisible one. But I also know that many like you, I sat around a kitchen table that was barely standing up, wondering how I was going to feed my kids and get them to daycare and pay that person. I was going to rob Peter to pay Paul, right? We do it every month to balance the books so that my kids feel comfortable and confident and understand that I ain't rich, but you have to make a difference. If you struggle, we have to come out and talk about that struggle. We need to talk to these ministers and have a conversation and say, you represent us, not the other way around. So let's sit down, let's move this needle. You don't have to make up a new plan. There's already successful ones out there. Let's copy. The best form of flattery is copying, right? So let's do it. So that leads me into this other thing. As you see our shirt here, we are workers that work on the SkyTrain. We're frontline workers. We're workers that you may not see until you see drugs on the platform, you see blood or feces on the platform, you got a lost child, you see somebody with mental health struggling and you don't know who to reach out to. All of a sudden you see a cleaner and they're safe and you go to them. Now they're privatized, and shame on people for privatized workers, because this is important work. These are amazing workers that, by the way, successfully have a central table and are bargaining together with janitors across the Lower Mainland and Vancouver. Now, when that contract changed over and we negotiated, we didn't see a 5% wage increase. We didn't see that. But there's a 5% increase on their transit passes. How are they going to pay for that? That increase that they got at the table, because we're seeing what, 3, 3, and 3, right? That's the mandate. How are we going to pay for everything with now the expenses, not only with groceries, with gas, if you have a vehicle, right? With transit, with the cost of living day to day, with daycare. Because if you're lucky to get an affordable daycare spot, what is affordable? It's wonderful, it's cheaper. It is great, but it's not really accessible. Woo! Now we have contractors coming in that don't give a crap about the safety. We have workers working alone all night long with no provisions, no SOP for anyone checking in on them. If they fall on the tracks, cleaning the yellow line was high risk environment. Nobody checks on them. They won't even know they didn't go home at the end of the day. We have workers who use this transit every single day, who have to decide whether they're going to make it to work to make a day's wages. Isn't that a little insane? I have to work, but how do I get there? I can't get there today, so I need to ask a friend to afford me a pass or a ride. It should be able for me to walk on and go to work and be able to live my life and not worry about filling my fridge and looking after my kids or my family or my disability. So we are asking the government, low-income transit pass, yes, that's the minimum you can do, the bare minimum. We are asking for transit to be paid. Don't leave people behind. The workers you're leaving behind, the people sitting at home. And yes, you heard about the affordability around the transit pass being paid for disability. I've got a bio mom that's on that disability. It doesn't cover for the handy dart, so she's stuck at home. Lucky she has kids. But that's not everybody's situation. We are then causing a precarious situation on our frontliners. And what I mean by that is if that person isn't leaving that house to go to a medical appointment, they become a risk. Then you have our frontliners responding to a home and not being able to access health care. We could have stopped that from happening. You have to have affordability. You have to have accessibility. And that doesn't mean just for the rich. I'm sorry. Let's change these tax brackets. Let's fund this system. Let's listen to workers. Let's listen to community members. Their voice matters. Let's not buy out builders. Let's look at people and say, this is the people that pounded the pavement, got us elected, and they need help, and that's my job. So accountability. We've got a government that's supposed to work for us. So let's go visit them. Let's hold them accountable, and let's make sure everyone has access to transit. Thank you.
Thank you, Dallis, for standing for us, first of all. And thank you all for giving me an opportunity here to speak. And good afternoon. So my name is Sanchit Sharma, and I work as a SkyTrain cleaner. I rely on transit for my daily commute. And I'm here because this issue is not just because of me. This is not about me. It is about thousands of people who are relying on transit every single day. For many of us, transit is not luxury. It is necessity.
Yes.
It is how people get to work, how students get to college, school, how seniors attend medical appointments, how families stay connected to daily life. When fare increases, it seems small, but for many of us, it creates real pressure. It forces people to make difficult choices between paying for transit or groceries, between getting to work or saving money for rent. Yeah, so low-income transit pass is so important. Transit should become affordable, not affordable for people like us who use it the most. Low-income pass help people connect for employment, education, healthcare, community support. When people access the transit, they can participate in society, and that benefits everyone.
Yes.
I also want to talk about reality of wages. As a union member, I understand how wage increases work. most workers are not receiving increases anywhere close to 5% each year. So when transit fare goes up by 5%, it quickly becomes a burden. And if someone like me feels that pressure, we need to think about people who are on minimum wages, casual workers, part-time workers, seniors, people who are on disabilities. Families are already stretched by the cost of living. For many of them, this increase is not small, it is significant.
Yeah.
This brings to an important question. Where is the money going? If fares increases continuously, the public deserves transparency.
Yes.
Where is the additional revenue is being invested? What improvements are riders actually seeing? Is it improving safety, cleanliness, reliability or service?
No.
Because from workers' perspective, the system is under pressure. The workers who clean and maintain the transit system have experienced staffing reductions, increased workloads, safety concerns, fewer resources to do their jobs properly.
Shame.
These are frontline workers who keep the system safe and clean for everyone. So it is fair for the riders to ask, if people are paying more, is the system actually improving?
No.
No. If revenue is increasing, why workers and conditions are under more strain? Shame. Yeah. Accountability is important. If fare increases, people should be able to see better staffing, clearer stations. Yeah, so if fare increases, people should be able to see better staffing, clearer stations, safer workplaces, better services for riders.
Yes.
These improvements should be visible and measurable. In closing, I support the creation and expansion of low-income transit pass. I also ask transit to be transparent about how fare increases are being used. Because affordability and workers' conditions are connected. Public transit should remain affordable for the people who rely on it, and the workers who keep it running should have the resources they need to keep it safe, clean, and reliable. Thank you.
Hey. Thank you, Naisha. Woo! Okay, hi folks. So yeah, my name is Kabir, and we're here to support, on behalf of Carnegie Housing Project, the fight for the low-income transit pass, because this fight is directly connected to our fight to end homelessness. Our research suggests that in order to end homelessness, all three levels of the government, municipal, provincial, federal, they have to work together. In order to make transit affordable, we believe the same is applicable. When people in the lower mainland are forced to choose between buying a bus pass and paying their $500 a month rent, they're trapped. That's a shelter rate rent, by the way. If you're on welfare, disability, on pension, your rent subsidy is $500 a month, $500 to $600 a month, depending on which one. So folks who are on these subsidies, they can't go to work, they can't get to appointments, and they're cut off from the community if transit is inaccessible and too expensive. This is true in the downtown east side too. We have members and volunteers who struggle to go buy groceries, who struggle to go see family in Richmond or in Surrey. People who have to make the hard decision of letting go of a meal just to go travel and see their family. That's a shame. Our housing advocacy demands that housing is not just a bed or a room, but a stable, permanent home. Transportation access is a key part of that stability. You can't maintain a home if you can't get to work, for your medical appointments, or to go see family. The province, they can't just sit back and let housing and transit get more expensive. They can't continue isolating people more. people complain that BC communities are already isolated. That's because we're making it isolated. We're isolating people further and further every year. So it's a simple choice. If we really want change, we have to ask our elected representatives. We have to fight. We have to fight the province. We have to fight on a municipal level. We have to fight at a federal level too. We have to support our unions. We have to support all of our community organizations. We have to support harm reduction. We have to support transportation, housing, everything. It's at all levels. And one of the first steps to that is this low-income transit pass, a lit pass. Right? So what do we want? What do we want? When do we want it? And if we don't get it, if we don't get it, if we don't get it, thank you.
Hello. My story is very personal, and then I want to emphasize everything that we've been saying, which is why this matters for everybody. In 2023, I started showing symptoms of a chronic illness called postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. This means that my nervous system does a very poor job at managing things like heart rate and blood vessel constriction. What this means is every day, and probably forever, if I'm not laying down or sitting, blood cannot properly reach my brain. This means daily nausea, heart palpitations, and extreme fatigue. And at the worst, this means completely random fainting episodes. With my current unemployment, I have to take many unpaid sick days multiple times a month, at times up to once a week. And a lot of the time when we think about accessibility, we view things as black or white. We often focus on what is visible. You cannot tell by looking at me that my heart beats 160 times a minute just from standing up. You cannot tell by looking at me the impact this has on my ability to make money and be a functioning member of society. Because I fall in this gray area of not being... Because I fall in this gray area of not being inherently legally disabled, but certainly not able to live a normal life, I need this low-income transit pass. It's very possible that this undersupported illness will contribute to me having a low income for many years, but I should still have the opportunity to get to where I need to go despite my income. It also matters for everybody. What happens when public infrastructure is used in a for-profit business model? It then becomes radical to demand accessibility. Roughly 400,000 people in the Metro Vancouver area are classified as low income. I don't think it's radical to say that public infrastructure should at the bare minimum be completely accessible to those who need it most and those who make up a sizable percentage of our population. Nobody knows the value of a dollar until it becomes all you think about. And we are recognizing that if this is a solution implemented in other regions, including Calgary, Edmonton, Toronto, who's benefit from preventing that solution from taking place here? It's not you or me. It matters to me because I think that, not because I think that I'm the most in need, but because I know I'm not. I know that this exact thought pattern exists for so many people in the Lower Mainland, they just have not had a chance to be listened to. It matters because I think that public services should facilitate an active attempt to reduce suffering. Any less means the discussion is not finished. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Alexa, and as Naisha said, I am the community manager at an organization called Women Transforming Cities, or WTC for short. So at WTC, we believe that cities should work for everyone. And one way that this is currently falling short is transit affordability. Over the past few months, WTC has been leading a campaign called Our City Hall, where we've been in communities across Vancouver listening to residents about the biggest issues that they face. We've heard from renters, from seniors, from members of low-income communities, newcomers, workers. And across these conversations, one thing keeps coming up again and again. People are struggling to afford transit and get to where they need to go. Transit is how people get to work. It's how they get to school, how they access childcare, healthcare, groceries, and ultimately community. It's how people stay connected to one another and how they avoid isolation. But for many people in Metro Vancouver, rent has become another impossible cost in an already unaffordable city. And when rent takes half or more of your income, when grocery costs keep climbing, when wages are not keeping pace with the cost of living, taking transit can mean making impossible choices. Do I buy a transit pass this month, or do I buy enough food? Do I make it to my medical appointment, or do I save that fare for getting to work? And no one should have to make these choices. When transit becomes unaffordable, people are also often pushed towards less safe, alternative, and accessible modes of transportation, which might mean walking longer distances, taking routes that feel less safe, and relying on infrastructure that was not built with everyone in mind. So one way that this has come up in our engagement is we heard from a community member with a disability who uses a mobility scooter, and they described effectively being pushed off the sidewalk into traffic because of cracked sidewalks, missing curb cuts, and inaccessible routes. So when affordable and accessible transit options are not available, people are left navigating dangerous conditions just to get to where they need to go. Transit inaccessibility also worsens pre-existing inequities. So women, gender diverse people, seniors, people with disabilities, members of low-income communities are more likely to rely on public transit. They are also more likely to be living off of precarious incomes. So when transit is unaffordable, the burden often falls hardest on members of equity-deserving communities. And what we've heard through our campaign is that our people just want a city where they can move freely, safely, and affordably. They want to access the resources they need without being pushed into economic precarity. And yes, a low-income transit pass is great transportation policy, but it is also a poverty reduction measure, a public health measure, a gender equity measure, a climate justice measure. And when more people can take transit, we all benefit from a healthier, more connected, and more sustainable city. We cannot build an equitable city when mobility remains out of reach for the people who need it the most. So today, ahead of the planned transit fare hikes, we stand with community members, advocates, and organizers calling for affordable transit for all. We stand with the people who have told us clearly and time again that this is what truly matters, because everyone deserves access to affordable transit. Thank you.
Just really want to thank Movement YVR for inviting us to speak today. You can really tell, give it up for yourselves, by the way, for being here. For commuting here from various places. I've actually had a chance to talk to people in the crowd, some people commuting all the way from Maple Ridge to get to here, from South Vancouver. So yeah, give it up for yourselves. You know, it's very clear that we need a It's very clear that we need a low-income transit pass. This is important to building genuine support for those who work low-income jobs, for those who are struggling with the rising cost of living, paying rent, for paying groceries. Those of us who live in precarity and maybe can't stay here, working on temporary visa, while our government, our federal government, is making shocking policies around immigration, detention, and mass deportations. Shame. It's clear, we need our governments from the municipal to the provincial to the federal, that's been said over and over again, that make choices that truly support us, choices that defend our rights, our fundamental human rights for housing, accessible education, dignified work, and affordable public transportation. Now, our organization is inspired by the movement in the Philippines. We're Canada-Philippines Solidarity for Human Rights. In the Philippines, due to the recent US-Iran war over the Strait of Hormuz, oil prices skyrocket to the highest price hike in the world that has ever been recorded. This affected fare prices for commuters in the Philippines, for transit operators that are private operators in the Philippines that have to pay for their own fuel and maintenance. We saw communities there, due to these oil price hikes, get together, form bonds of solidarity in support of each other. Namely, commuters built community kitchens and mutual aid efforts to support transport drivers, who often make only $32 a day in the Philippines. The drivers themselves organized with their unions. There's a union called Piston that is worth checking out in the Philippines. Their unions built rallies addressing the oil deregulation in the country, but also critiquing the US's war of aggression in Iran, because it's interconnected. Drivers even resisted raising up the prices of fare. Can you even imagine that in the Philippines? They are resisting rising the fare prices because they understand workers there have to travel sometimes 3 to 5 hours just to get to work. In the Philippines, now, in the Philippines, people find ways to support each other, not out of charity, but for genuine solidarity, in understanding that our circumstances are interconnected and related to the system of governance that we're under. Just want to give us another big round of applause for Movement YVR, who are showing up for the interests of us. Everyone here shares the knowledge that we are hardworking people who need policies that truly support us, while the crises of war and climate crises drive up the costs of our groceries, our rent, and our commute. Canada-Philippines Solidarity for Human Rights encourages everyone here to join organizations like ours and Movement YVR to build power amongst ourselves, both locally and globally. Our circumstances are truly connected, from the land of the Coast Salish nations that we're under to the Philippines. The fight continues for our rights, for affordable living, for our environment, for the protection and security of our loved ones and community, and for those who live marginalized and in precarity. If you want to learn more, we're actually going to be having a rally out at Waterfront Station. The Philippine President, Ferdinand Marcos Sr., the son of a former dictator that placed the Philippines under martial law for more than 20 years, is coming to meet our Prime Minister, coming to meet with business folks and investors who are going to make, is basically to implicate Canadian business in the Philippines. And that is a shame. So please do come out and feel free to speak to myself. We have Kai over there, if Kai wants to give a little peace sign. If you would like to learn more about the Philippines, if you yourself are a Filipino, to learn about our movement. And thank you so much to Movement YVR. If you'd be willing to join me in a chant, especially since we're about international solidarity, one chant that we say a lot is, "Long live international solidarity." So can you say it with me? Ready? Long live international solidarity. One more time. Long live international solidarity. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. As mentioned, my name is Christy and I am the president of the newest district Labour Council, but I am also the proud vice president of MoveUp that represents roughly 1,000 workers for the transit system between BC Transit, Coast Mountain Bus, and TransLink. So many of my workers help keep the transit system running and safe, and I'm very happy that we're here today for some of it. Not all of it, though. I just want to say a lot of these stories really resonate with me, as I grew up with a single mom and I know what it was like trying to find bus fare for us to get to school in the day. I lived in Poco, went to high school in Port Moody, and we still to this day chant, "Well, you got 2 feet and a heartbeat, so I guess you're walking today." 30 years later, don't judge, I am that old. I do have a script. So please don't mind if I go off, because it's been a minute since I got a call from the leadership over at Coast Mountain Bus, so it might be time that I stirred the pot a little bit there as well. So I am very pleased to be here today to bring the greetings and solidarities and announce that at our June 24th executive meeting, our delegates and affiliate unions voted to endorse signing on to Movement's coalition and the support of the Low Income Transit Pass campaign. As I said, while I'm pleased to be here, I'm not exactly happy about the reason, as today marks the substantial 5% increase in fares. While 5% might not seem like much, this is yet another bite into an already stretched monthly expenses in one of the most unaffordable regions in Canada. Working people are no longer able to get ahead, while some are barely staying afloat and others are simply falling behind. At the same time, we are the backbone of this economy, and we are the ones moving those goods and the people around. We provide the services people need. We build and make things. We teach, we care, and we respond to emergencies. And we do our jobs to make the economy run, and we always need ways to get to work. Working people understand the importance of accessibility and reliable public transit. And we stand as allies with others who rely on transit with seniors, persons living with disabilities, and families. Transit is critical to the infrastructure, and that's why I'm here today. And that's why we are calling on all levels of government to make a serious and substantial long-term commitment to funding transit. We need funding that reflects the importance of transit, not just to the economy, but to our region and the ability of people to live, work, and play without falling behind. We also need to ensure that these organizations that are at the table with us in the unions are actually paying the folks and keeping them safe. So Dextera, we see you. Unifor and the operators, we see you, and I cannot wait for our group to get to the bargaining table, because we're coming, don't you worry. Federal and provincial governments must fund not only those capital costs and their big, shiny projects, but also ensure that there is day-to-day funding for the operations, which is including a decent pay, fair wages, and to every worker who makes this system run. It is time for transit to stop running on the backs of working people and our communities. And now it's my turn to lead a chant, because that's what these rallies are all about. Okay, so let's make sure that the TransLink and government hear us. So join me. When I say, what do we want? We're gonna say transit. When do we want it? Here we go. So what do we want? Transit. And when do we want it? Now. Thank you.
Hello. So I've been lucky to have had my transit discounted for pretty much the whole time I've used it. I've had concession passes in high school and the U-Pass during my time at UBC. But it was until last year, when I took the year off for school for health reasons, that I realized just how much the transit costs would add up that year without it, especially without having secured a stable job. But I was again lucky, because I was and still am qualified for the persons with disabilities income and bus pass program to survive with the income to survive that year, and the bus pass, which also qualifies me. Then I applied for the BC bus pass program that year, since I hadn't needed to before because of the concession and the U-Pass. So I say lucky in quotation marks, because I do believe it is quite a privilege to have my transit costs discounted and receive income that I didn't necessarily work for, but because we live in such a place that we can provide that clearly with all the billions of dollars of real estate and billions of dollars of investment around here, there is money to spare for that. So many people across the world do not have access to those types of, completely necessary and fundamental help. But it's also unlucky because of the reasons why I qualify for the income discounts. Being low income and living with an invisible disability is not fun in any sense of the word. And it's not just for the obvious reasons of not being able to do things the same as everyone else. To receive the PWD income and the BC Bus Pass program, it requires a lot of invasive and mind-numbing paperwork and dealing with the government and painfully slow and inefficient services and confusing requirements. My mom initially did this paperwork for me, but when I started to do it myself, I truly couldn't understand how insane it was. It feels like you're being under a microscope with everything you do with money being scrutinized. Imagine having to justify why you're paying for whatever it is you're paying for, why you're earning the income that you're earning. It doesn't feel great. Exactly. So to give an example of how frustrating it is, I had to pay the full $117.20 for a one-zone pass this July because I could not request the BC Bus Pass program in time because I didn't know if I was going to be in class or if I was going to have a job or whatever. So I had to pay the full price. And then I had to pay the extra ad fare to go from just Joyce to Metrotown because I didn't have enough time to get here on the 49 from UEC. So, yeah. So, with that being said, my greatest desire for a low-income transit pass is that it should not require more people to be subjected to those types of income tests and crazy amounts of paperwork. It should be a very easy and streamlined process where if you qualify for other low-income programs and are already income tested in those crazy ways, you should be able to just receive it just as is, no questions asked. And if you aren't already qualified for those programs, it should be an easy, simple, and streamlined process without worry, without just those crazy requirements and crazy scrutinization, and without being so invasive. And one last thing. When I first received the BC Bus Pass card, I was very self-conscious about it being bright red. So I tried my best to hide it. I have my compass card here. I turned it the other way so it's the white side. So, because I was self-conscious, I didn't want my disability, my income being shouted out to the world saying, hey, I have a disability, I'm low income. Because that's private information, although I am saying it now, but that's besides the point. It's my choice, exactly, it's my choice. It should be my choice. So the low-income bus pass should not be bright red. It should be the same color as all the other cards, blue or green if you have the evergreen pass card. And I shouldn't have to use a card that shouts to the world, or no one should be using a card that shouts to the world, you're low income, disabled, and because that's private information. It's not lit. So I just wanted to say thank you to Movement and everyone here. I believe I am the last speaker. The MC probably will speak again, but I want to say thank you, huge thank you to Movement, huge thank you to all of you for this opportunity to speak. Thank you.